Let me play something for you. Alright. You seemed impressed by the way you came in. Tell us a story. I know you're not boring. I was afraid that you would not insist. You sound so sleepy. Just take this, now leave me. I said, please don't hold me down if I'm going too fast. You're in a strange part of our town. Yeah, the night's not over. You're not trying hard enough. Our lives are changing lanes. You ran me off the road. The wait is over. I'm now taking over. You're no longer laughing. I'm not drunk.
Hello viewers, it is I, James Kalm, your half-assed reporter, the guy that's trying to get you information for all of our paint heads in the world. We are in Chelsea. We're gonna run in here to Matthew Marks, and we're gonna look at an exhibition by Joan Brown titled Facts and Fantasies. We'll make our initial sweep.
You sound so angry. Just calm down. You found me. I said, please don't slow me down if I'm going too fast. You're in a strange part of our town. Yeah, the night's not over. You're not trying hard enough. Our lives are changing.
Well, we'll start out here. It's a self-portrait at age 42. 1980 enamel on canvas, 72 by 60 inches. I first started seeing references to Joan's work as a student and as a soldier in the military in Germany, and I would see her reviewed in magazines, Art Forum, Art in America, Art News, and I guess it's because I was from the, well, Pacific Northwest, as they called it. We were paying a lot more attention to the Bay Area artists, the funk artists, Bay Area figurative painters than people who were probably living on the East Coast, so Joan was a little more important to us. This is titled The Last Day of Summer, 1976. So I think that Joan was a San Francisco painter, and I think she studied there at the San Francisco Art Institute, some school there, but she studied with people like David Park and Frank Lobdell, some of the other Bay Area figurative artists. This is also enamel on canvas, 83 by 71. I think one of the things is that, well, Joan and the whole kind of Bay Area figurative things were coming out against the abstract expressionists and the minimalists and all that stuff that was happening at the same time. So they got into kind of a funky figurative style, and it was kind of naive. I think Robert Colescott was out there at the same time doing some great stuff. It's titled Mary Julia Emmanuel. '95 by 77. And when I got to New York, I was actually seeing Joan's work at a gallery on 57th Street called Alan Frumkin. And I think one of the shows that he had, they actually had some of her early, more abstract pieces. And you could see where she was really influenced by David Park and some of the more chunky Bay Area figurative painters. And I think that they were kind of influenced by people like Clifford Still, who had come there and taught in the early 50s. Okay, I like this. They talk about the fact that Joan was also a marathon swimmer, and at one point she and a group of people were swimming to Alcatraz, which I guess that's what that little island there is, and well, they were nearly drowned when some big freighter went by them, kind of washed them around. Wolf in Room. It's an enamel on canvas 95 by 71. As I was saying, I was seeing Joan's work at Alan Frumkin, and you would see it in group shows here and there. But I didn't see a lot of the work that was this large. A lot of it was maybe half this size. So this is actually an interesting show to see her big paintings. It's 1974. I've done a little Google research on Joan, and it turns out that maybe in the early 60s that she was included in one of the Whitney Biennial shows, and she was the youngest person in the show. I think she was 22 at the time, and that might be a record up to this day. I like the patterning in this. Also, she's got a certain feel for the enamel. Anyway, they talk about her as a competitive marathon swimmer. And I think when I keep that in mind and I'm looking at the paintings, it's like this one is Golden Gate Bridge, 1974. This is 96 by 78. But this would be the view of the bridge you might see if you were swimming across the bay. Also, I like the shadow there on the mountain. And I think some of these pieces, if you were to take out the kind of the funky figurative elements and just leave the main compositional things, I think a lot of this kind of relates to some of the new image paintings. People like Robert Moskowitz and David True, some of those people. There's a sculpture. This is titled Swimmers, 1974. Actually, I was going to say that one of Robert Moskowitz's most famous new image paintings was titled Swimmer or Swimmers. I like this very simple design. I mean, there's a certain minimalism there. We've got the cube, and then Joan is stuck in some of her swimmers in the little slots. Dancers in Landscape, 1973. It's enamel on canvas, 83 by 72. And again, this is very reduced down. I think it was Lois Lane, was also doing some black paintings. Yeah, there is a certain kind of sensual quality to this. Also, I'm looking and thinking that I can see a little pedimedi in here. Almost looks like a little, I don't know what, a cityscape in there that's gotten painted out. Well, I think I read in the press release that Joan was sort of going through a period in which she started to focus in more on self-portraits and her images of cats. The Visitor. Also, I was thinking that some of these pieces, she's got large areas of pattern in there, and well, that was kind of towards the beginning of when a certain group of artists, particularly women artists, were looking at pattern as an idea that they could work out and turn into the pattern decorative movement. And we've got some hieroglyphics in the background, and okay, if you look closely, you can see that there was something behind there. I think one of the, heartbreaking aspects of Joan's career is that she was well respected, well received, got attention both here in New York and California and even some of the art centers of Europe. And I guess towards the end of her career, she started to focus more on sculpture. And I believe that she was in India. This was in the mid-90s. She was working on some large sculptural arch or passageway, some kind of public art project. And, part of the structure fell on her and killed her. And I guess that's one of the problems with being an artist. You take a certain amount of chances. This is titled Acrobats and Spectator on New Year's Eve 1974. So I think Joan was kind of a fierce female artist doing her own thing. I guess you'd have to be pretty courageous to get out and swim across San Francisco Bay. So I got a little echo of a famous Bacabia painting when I look at this. we'll scan down this wall of drawings. Mary Julia and David, number 5. It's acrylic and graphite on paper, 1976, 36 by 24. Okay, so we've seen the champagne bottle in a couple of paintings. Also, I'm thinking that her loose drawing style and some of the patterning puts me in mind of Matisse. Mary Julia and Nick, number 4. It's 1976. Mary Julia, number 41. Okay. The secret word. I have traveled far enough now. I am tired. I want the secret word today, or I don't know if I can finish. I feel weak. Wanting one word, love, today. I was frightened. I fell down into the grass, sobbing. Okay, let's hit the last gallery. Well, I talked about how they were saying that she'd gotten into a phase where she was spending a lot of time making work about cats. This is actually called Donald. This is 1986, Copper Over Wood. I actually appreciate the craftsmanship that it takes to put something like this together. So we got brass sheets, or copper sheets, copper tacks. That is aged beautifully. That's a wonderful patina on there. Noel and Damon, 1971, enamel on masonite, 72 by 48. Well, that's a pretty competent portrait. Yeah, I bet if she wanted to, she could have stretched out in the portraiture thing and been a West Coast version of Alice Neal, maybe. Although there was something about the enamel paint that kind of flattens everything out. We'll end on this piece. (20 to 9, 1972). Oil enamel on masonite. Oh, this is inappropriate. So we've got our champagne bottle again. Got our pack of Lucky Strikes. There's a lot of people today wouldn't even know what a Lucky Strike was. And this kind of makes me think of an Edvard Munch painting called Between the Clock and the Bed. Okay, so that's about the size of a standard sheet of masonite, 4 by 8 feet. So this has been James Kalm reporting on Joan Brown, Facts and Fantasy, here at Matthew Mark's gallery. Okay, viewers, so this is a great running together of the planets here. We're going to run across the street here from Matthew Mark's over here to DC Moore. Got a nice comparison to make. So I'm going to take a look at an exhibition by Yvonne Jacquette. Title of the exhibition is Looking Up, Down, Inside, Outside, 1962 to 1976. And recent views, Maine and New York. On fire and she's fixing her hair. You sound so angry, just calm down, you found. This is titled Window on Fire Escape, 1965, acrylic on board, 22 by 16 inches. Well, I believe that Yvonne just passed away recently. It's at the age of 88. This is titled Main View with Curtains, 1964, oil on canvas, 50 by 34. And I believe that this show was curated by her son, Tom Burkhart. Okay, and I think that Yvonne and Rudy Burkhart, her husband and father, Tom, were people that were part of the Maine art community up there, with people like Alex Katz and Fairfield Porter, Louise Dodd. It's untitled Work on Paper, 1967. Study for the James Bond car painting, 1967. Well, first of all, I've got about 20 minutes, so we're going to try to scoot through here pretty fast. Underspace, 1966, acrylic on fiberboard, 32 by 24. Well, Yvonne was quite a articulate realist. And I wanted to juxtapose this show against the Joan Brown show up at Matthew Mark's. I think they were roughly contemporaries. Window Shadow, 1965. I thought this show would also be interesting because although during this period Yvonne was doing some wonderful work, she actually became much better known for her kind of aerial views of landscapes and Cityscapes. Study for Fluorescent Light, 1969. Okay. 14 by 10. Saying initially I was looking at some of these pieces and thinking that they made me think of Louise Dodd and Fairfield Porter, but this is kind of a different view. She's kind of going into a sharp focus realism, maybe even photorealism, but on very mundane, uninteresting views of things, quotidian things. Small tin ceiling, 1963. Detail of ceiling. So I think the interesting thing about both Yvonne and Joan is that, well, Joan was definitely West Coast. Yvonne is definitely East Coast. And they were sort of coming into painting, or at least they were kind of a paradigm shift, coming into painting again, a figurative painting, especially after the abstract expressionists. Open Door with Hinge, small version, 1967. I think one of the other interesting things is that these kinds of fragments of daily things kind of blown up or done in a strange perspective, they become very abstract. I mean, I've seen a lot of totally geometrical abstract paintings that look pretty close to this. This is Open Door Tin Ceiling, 1969, acrylic on canvas. And Yvonne is also quite a subtle colorist. Backyard with Easel. It's a wonderful watercolor. 15 by 15 and a half. Still life with plants. So this is about the oldest piece in the show. This is 1962. I'll read a little bit from the press release. Looking up, down, inside, outside, features the artist's paintings and works on paper from 1962 to 1976. Rarely seen together, these early works exemplify Jacquette's consistent intensity of gaze and unique vantage point expressed throughout her career. In the early 1960s, Jacquette began painting her immediate reality from unusual points of view, looking through the windows of the flower district near her apartment on West 29th Street, down at her son's toys on the floor, or up at the light reflected on the tin ceiling while practicing yoga. As Lily Way writes in the exhibition catalog, these works asserted the beauty of the mundane. Rock Wall, 1968-69, oil on linen. Scrutinizing commonplace objects and spaces, usually not accorded a starring role in paintings. Jacquette and other women artists at the time believed that domestic objects could be the subject of art, belief supported by feminist theories that would eventually upend the existing paternalistic canon. A quick look at the weather. 1972. This is 80 by 64. Well, I sometimes give a shout out to viewers that I receive posts from, and well, in this case, I had a next door neighbor who pleaded with me to cover the show. So yeah, special shout out to our viewers in Red Hook, Brooklyn. We'll look at some of the studies. Barn Ceiling, 1969. It's a watercolor study for that piece. Well, I believe Yvonne Jacquette was married to Rudy Burkhardt, a very famous photographer. And I believe they did spend a lot of time in Maine and were friends with a whole group of people up there. I believe it was somewhere around Portland. I could be wrong. So this is Barn Ceiling, 1969, oil on canvas, 80 by 64. Now I think I could probably go back in the files and find at least one report on Yvonne's work when it's all the landscapes, maybe not aerial landscapes, but maybe landscapes from the top of a skyscraper looking down. And I always looked at those pieces and kind of thought that they were technical tour de forces, and that Yvonne is really quite a technical master. But I never knew that she did this entire body of work before that. And well, this is pretty good stuff. Okay, so this is 1969. I think the earliest piece was 62, something like that. So she's really kind of concentrating on developing her rendering. And as I also said, she's got a great color sense. Let's look at the recent views of Maine and New York. Belfast River Diptych, 2019, oil on linen. It's 26 by 72. So this is 2019. Okay, so gosh, I was trying to think, what is that? That's like 50 years between these and some of the earlier pieces. And okay, I like the way that she's kind of schematized her brush strokes. Balconies, brick building close up front. This is 2021. Film cans, 2020 oil on linen. Okay, it would be interesting to know what the story of that is. I was saying that Rudy was a famous photographer, but I assume he also maybe made films. This is 41 by 25. Pink brick and curved dark window, 2020. Okay, this looks like looking out somebody's back window in the West Village into the rear courtyard and looking at the row house across the courtyard from you. Double NYC buildings. Oil and linen, 42 by 25. Well, so I said that Yvonne was married to Rudy Burkhardt, and I think Rudy's first wife, Edith Schloss, was the mother of Jacob Burkhardt, and I think Jacob edited her writings down, and they published a book called Loft Lives, or the Loft Generation, something like that, talking about the Bohemian here in Chelsea, and the Bohemians in Chelsea back in the 40s, 50s with people like de Kooning and a whole raft of local people. This is titled Backside of Huge Sign, and I kind of like the pointillism. Back of barn 2022, oil on linen. I think the other rumor that I heard was that, so Yvonne passed away a couple of months ago at the age of 88, but I'd heard that, well, she had some health challenges and that her eyesight wasn't what it had been. So a lot of people were amazed that she kept working and producing some pretty interesting paintings. Forest Mix 2021, oil on linen 36 by 31. But I'm also thinking that maybe that's why she kind of schematized her brushwork a little more. But still a great colorist, and I kind of like the way that this is kind of light, thin, almost like watercolor. Oh, this is a beautiful piece. Willow Resurrected, 2020, oil and linen, 33 by 25. Okay, I look at this and I think of one of Bonnard's paintings in the garden. Again, and great color. "22nd Street apartment, 1974. This is a lithograph. Okay, I just talked with John Lutz, and they were works here, and he was going home, so I think it's probably after closing time. This is also Green Light, Gray Day, another lithograph. Actually, I was thinking, yeah, you can see where she's kind of done her staccato brushwork on this as well, so that kind of relates to some of the later paintings. This is 1976. Oh, and I've got some studies. Study for movie market, afternoon. Oh, I like the little notes there. That's great. Traffic signal, orange sky, 1973. I was thinking this actually kind of, for some reason, makes me think of Edward Hopper. This is oil on linen, 12 by 16. I like it. This is a great little study. And also, I'll draw your attention to this painted margin in there. I think that was one of the things that got me interested in Yvonne's work, was that this was all during the kind of the emergence of photorealism, and I don't think that I don't know how much she used photography. May have, may not have, but that kind of realism was very influential. This is titled East 15th Street. Okay. (1974). Third Avenue Sky Square. And again, these are kind of like her views of the tin ceiling. She's picking very ordinary views of very unremarkable things and sort of cropping things down until she gets this basically an abstract composition there. It's titled Looking Up Watercolor on Paper. Looking Up Study 1972, Oil and Pencil on Matte Board, 7 by 9. Okay, this is going to be the last piece we look at here today. 22nd Street, Artist Proof 2, 1974, lithograph in hand coloring. James Kalm reporting on Yvonne Jacquette, Looking Up, Down, Inside, Outside, 1962 to 76, here at the DC Moore Gallery. You can like this, share, subscribe, link it up to all your social media sites, and you can leave your thoughts, ideas, comments, criticisms, reviews, and suggestions below. We just ask you to say, as always, thank you, Kate.
Taking over, you're no longer laughing. I'm not drowning fast enough. Thank you.
Gabriel Mayers, thank you.
That's me, I'm Gabriel Mayers.
Gabriel Mayers, thanks.